Hello and welcome to another Tim Talk podcast by Celtic Down Under. I'm your host, Jarrod, and joining me tonight is Amy Canavan from Axom Podcast. How are you going?
I'm good, Jarrod. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm thoroughly looking forward to this. Big fan of the show. Love these Tim Talk podcasts. So, I'm absolutely delighted and honoured to be on. So, thank you.
Thanks for coming on. It's always great to speak to not just other Celtic fans, but other people within the fan media sphere as well. So it's I'm looking forward to it. So we'll get through we've got our usual questions we want to touch on, but we'll start off with, how did you become a Celtic fan, Amy?
I wasn't given an option. It's as simple as that. You know, there's so many things in life I wasn't given an option with, but Celtic's one of them that I probably won't moan about. Maybe a few others I will, but so my name's Canavan. It's Irish. My dad's side, big Celtic fans, and then my mum's side, big Irish Catholics as well, and big Celtic fans. So everybody in my life is a Celtic fan. You know, my dad, my uncles, obviously my younger brother, and it is just kind of by default. I was trying to figure out earlier actually how long it sort of strings back with the Celtic connections, because there's little potholes. I think it's pretty well documented, especially through Axom, that I'm Edinburgh, so I'm the East. So I don't have the Glasgow Celtic roots, but there are still Celtic fans in Edinburgh. It's not just all Hearts and Hibs, but my granddad was a big Hibs fan. But there's potholes further back, you know, that there was Celtic links. But no, going back to just my direct connections, like I say, my mum, big Celtic fan with her brothers, and then my dad, a big, massive Celtic fan as well. So me and my little brother Patrick, we were given absolutely no choice whatsoever. But I think we landed a little bit lucky.
Yeah, it could have been a lot of worse things going on. You could have been like, what are you, like 21 or something, if my memory's right?
I'm 20, so exactly. I could have been a Hibs fan. Can you imagine that? So obviously, I am 20, so I've kind of been, I don't know, I get a lot of, you know, you're just a glorified Celtic fan, or you're just like I do see myself as a lucky Celtic fan, absolutely. The fact that this past season has really been my dark times, my dad and my uncle, they just sort of shake their heads and go, you've got no idea what the dark days are like. So the fact that just really this last season has been my darkest time, because, you know, even thinking back, obviously I can remember Strachan's time, but obviously you just pick out the good ones as well, and I know we'll come on to those times later on, but by and large it's been a success story. So I hope it doesn't all go downhill just as I'm about to turn 21, so fingers crossed.
All I was going to say is, you're 20 years old. The last 20 years we've won it 15 times, so I think you've had a pretty good, you're born into
all right.
Doing all right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so we're talking off air about a topic that I want to get your point of view on, because you're in a privileged position where you're involved with Bonnyrigg Rose in the Lowland League, and with our Colts team at Celtic going in this season. The floor's yours. You used to have this joke on Axom about Amy's rant or whatever. So all I want to do over here, because we're so far removed from it, we're not hearing much about the Colts team. But what I'd like to know is, first of all, what's your opinion on it? Secondly, what's the club's unofficial? So this isn't a direct quote of their opinion. This is what you think and you're seeing within the club and people you're talking to, what their take on it is. And the last thing, for a bit of a laugh, is, are you looking forward to seeing those candy cane uniforms that we have as our third kit in the flesh at Bonnyrigg Rose in the first game?
Oh, right. How long have you got? So this is a very interesting question, and you're right. Amy's rant has kind of disappeared. I don't know where it's went. It must have been a Wednesday thing when I was still on with Colin Watt. Obviously, that hump day, I just went off on one. Monday's trying to be a little bit more optimistic, but it's just been so pessimistic every single week.
He doesn't let you do your rant. He's too positive.
Exactly. God, can't calm that man down. But yes, the Colts. So the position of the Lowland League, yes. So obviously it kicks off this week. Actually, it kicks off on Saturday. So it is really becoming real now that they are actually a part of it. I can't get behind it. I can't. And that is obviously the stance of Bonnyrigg Rose as well. we were one of just a few clubs. I think there's maybe three or five who didn't support the Colts getting admitted into the Lowland League. I think the biggest thing for us as a stance of Bonnyrigg, and of course I'm not talking for Bonnyrigg, but what I can see from being within the club is obviously there are many believe that the Lowland League is almost like the last tier, the bottom tier, but it's so not that. There's tiers 6, 7, 8, 9. There's so many tiers in Scottish football. You've got the West of Scotland League, but you've even got below that. So to get into this pyramid system, it's all just been some, obviously, if you speak to a Celtic Hearts fan, they're going to love this pyramid system. They've had a great success story. If you talk to a Brecon City fan, they're going to hate the pyramid. But one, there's no Brecon City fans anywhere, and two, nobody really cares what they have to say. So it's that's an irrelevant one. But it's they're just leapfrogging in right into the Lowland League. Bonnyrigg Rose ourselves had to win at the time the East of Scotland Super League to even get admitted into the Lowland League. And that took a few years then to originally get admitted into the Lowland League because there wasn't the right floodlights. It wasn't strong enough. There was something like that. That was before I was at the club, but as a fan, I remember that. And my dad actually grew up in Bonnyrigg, which is just a tiny little town 2 minutes down the road from Dalkeith, where I live. So it's always been like a big part of my life as well. And I remember him just going absolutely mental that it's like these floodlights, they weren't acceptable in the Lowland League. So there's been many clubs that have struggled to even get into that league in the first place, and already the Colts teams are just getting to parachute in. So for starters, that was a red flag and just sort of an iffy flag for Bonnyrigg. Another one was, of course, kind of saw through it, and it's already really transpired that what we believed to be true, some called us cynical at the time, but what believed to be true would happen, that it was all of this, it's just for a season, there won't be any promotion for the Colts sides, but there's already talk of them trying to get automatically into League Two. I think it's the next again season. So obviously the bottom tier of the Scottish professional game. So it just seems that, the big guys are getting exactly what they want. They're given a little bit of money, and I mean a little bit of money. It is not a lot of money for Celtic nor Rangers, and it's not a lot of money, to divide between the Lowland League. Obviously our season last season was curtailed under, slightly dubious circumstances. I think we played our last Lowland League game. Well, we actually never played the Lowland League game in this year, in 2021. It was a Scottish Cup game. It was 2 Scottish Cup games, actually. It was Bo'ness United, and then we played Dundee, which actually it made the telly over here. So
can I just jump in there for a second?
Yeah, go for it.
Scottish League game against Dundee.
Yeah.
You're going to find it really weird. Over here in Australia, through beIN Sports and the Scottish League thing, that game was actually shown on our pay TV over here.
No way.
So I saw that game.
Mark Weir, our goalkeeper, an absolute legend. A shout out for Mark Weir on a Celtic podcast. He'll be absolutely devastated. But that was a fantastic game. I went up the road. It was amazing, wasn't it?
Oh, it was a good game. It was like 2 a.m. or something like that. Our time, but I'm like, no, I don't feel like going to bed. Oh, okay, I'll watch this. Not knowing who the club was. I knew who Dundee was, but that was it. But yeah, that was on. So it was good.
Fantastic. And I think that really, that really actually showed. I think Kelty, who were Kelty playing that day? It was Stranraer or Stenhousemuir or something like that. They were playing a league team as well, and they ran them real close. But Bonnyrigg put in a real performance against Dundee, and ultimately really should have won the game. But it just shows the level that the Lowland League sides are at. So it's going to be interesting. There's no way the Colts sides are going to walk in and have it easy. You have players here there's players at Bonnyrigg Rose who are, Scottish under-21 nationalists, or there's guys that should easily be playing in the leagues. We're having, offers left, right and centre from SPFL clubs for our players because they're of such good standard. In pre-season already we played just Edinburgh City last week. Didn't look out of place at all. Some of these guys are thinking it's mental, but they're happy where they're at. There's a bit of progression. Well, there's a belief that there's progression in this pyramid system, no matter how tough it seems to be. And I know it almost sounds like a poor me act with Bonnyrigg and wanting a little bit pat on the back, but it's been so unlucky, and almost everything that could go wrong has went wrong. if you look at the way that this in the season's endings where we've sort of finished. But it's not going to be an easy run for the Colts sides. So from that perspective, it's kind of, it just had to be that obviously Bonnyrigg were going to be playing Celtic on the first day, being one of the clubs who basically were like, we don't want you at all. And the fans were so behind that. Our vote was based on the fans. It went to the fans, it went to the season ticket holders, and they made the decision. So there will be fans at the game on Saturday, which is absolutely amazing. It's so great just seeing the fans back in the Scottish game. I've loved it when I've been at the games for Bonnyrigg in the pre-season. Nothing quite beats an old man getting really, really angry at a guy who could basically be his grandson on the sidelines, telling him he could do it better. But when the ball comes to him, he can't even stop it. So it's, nothing beats those moments. Second point of the question. So the Lowland League, we didn't like it. The second point of the question was, how will they get on?
Yeah, how do you think it'll all work out, play out?
Well, I think it's extremely interesting. So I'm going to be doing commentary. I do commentary at Bonnyrigg Rose as well. So I'm trying to, right now I'm messaging everybody I know to try and figure out, does anybody know which players are actually going to be involved in this Colts team? Because there's everybody and their granny seems to be down in Wales right now with Ange. So who's left up here for the Colts? It's quite worrying actually that we've not really got quite an idea who's going to be a Colts player or not. Because it'd be good to, I think it'd be easier then to decide if it's going to be a good decision for said players or not. So it's interesting. Like I say, I really don't think it's going to be an easy ride as many fans I actually believe it could be. I see the comments coming in when I'm on Axom and they're like, oh, they're going to run this league. They're really not. Sure. There's exceptional talent in the Lowland League, where there's East Kilbride last season. They had Chris Erskine, who was a legend. Partick Thistle, whole machine. They had Paul Payton in midfield. Paul Payton's captain. Paul Payton plays obviously for Dundee United, Partick Thistle. Payton's been about forever. There was Kyle Hutton, who played for Rangers. There's exceptional talent here in the Lowland League, and that's just East Kilbride, who Bonnyrigg did actually beat. So it's
you bring up Payton because my memory of him is getting in trouble now. I'm on a night out in town punching someone.
Exactly, but it's a really competitive league. So I think they're going to get a fright. I really do. So in that sense, I can see it being a really, really quick learning curve for the players. And then going on to my personal point of view, we were talking about it just off air as well. I think it's going to be an if you want, I'll take it from a Celtic point of view. Actually, I think it's a disaster. I really do. I don't see how there's actually going to be a progression from this. I would much rather our players maybe try and get in maybe like groups of 2 or 3 to be going to a Cowdenbeath, to be going to Alloa, to be going to Peterhead. That's where I would much rather our players be going and playing. It's very good playing against top guys, top pros, real professional players. But it's a whole different ballgame when you're actually playing with them as well, because you have to automatically up your standards. My comparison, as always, is that Bonnyrigg last year, it's not an official link or anything like that, but it's almost, we're quite closely connected to Hearts. There's a really big Hearts following within Bonnyrigg in itself. And our manager, actually, Robbie Horn, used to play for Hearts. He's got a lot of links. And we had a young guy on loan last season called Leo Watson, who's 17, and he absolutely came and destroyed the league. He still has Chris Erskine in his pocket. He really does. And Bonnyrigg played Hearts just last week in a pre-season friendly, and Leo played, and he was absolutely exceptional. But the progression that he made from the first game for Bonnyrigg, to what we saw him the other night was astounding, because, and you speak to the lad himself and he knows the levels that he was up, because these guys suffer no fools. They're not going to give you 5 extra seconds on the ball because you're 17 years old. Not a chance. You're going to be under pressure the exact same that 32-year-old Al Horn at the back is going to be on, because that's the demand that there is. And I would feel much better if our players were going and not only learning from playing against the best, but from playing with the best. And the best, I mean the best trainers, the best hard workers, the grafters. These guys are not just playing football because they've they like the idea of European football. These guys are playing for a wage, for a living. They've got a life as well. They've been an electrician throughout the day. They can only train twice a week, and then they're playing on a Saturday in front of their kids and their family, and it's a big, massive occasion for them, because that's what Scottish football really is. It's not about this glorified path that you get through the academy, that you've been kind of protected since the age of 7, 8, or whatever it may be, filtered through, move up, go on your nice fancy holidays to Spain or wherever, play in these nice little pretty tournaments. This is real tough football, like proper like boys club football, and it's going back to the roots.
Yeah, a perfect example of that is someone I was a massive rap on back in the day, Daniel Church. Like, you look at him since he left us, I thought he was, if we had have developed him properly, he was on par at the same age as Tierney was, in my opinion. That's how highly rated he was. And now he's at Alloa. Like, I was messaging him on Instagram the other day because he sent up a post. I go, "Where you playing, mate?" He's like, "Alloa." I didn't recognise the uniform. So for me, it's like, he's a guy that has come through. He had that pathway. It didn't quite happen, and now he's coming up through the leagues, which is good on him. I'm glad he's still sticking in there and playing. But yeah, like, I agree with what you're saying, and something we were discussing earlier is I actually have said on previous pods that I wish we had partner clubs where we could send guys. So you send 3 or 4 guys to, as you said, like a Peterhead or wherever. You can send them out.
With Stenhousemuir, they've got that like connection.
Yeah, as long as they've got good facilities, and like even Dunfermline, for instance, would be a good club for us because it's close enough within range and they've got good facilities. Something like that.
What
was that?
Peter Grant's the manager now.
Yeah, there you go. So even something like that, if you send him 3 or 4 of your better up-and-coming guys, send them there. But at the same time, the Colts, because it's Celtic, I'm going to keep an eye on them. The same way I keep an eye on the women. I don't sit up and watch them because I don't get coverage of their games. I don't have, I don't have Celtic TV because it's a pain. It's cuts in and out over here. So,
Exactly.
But it's one of those ones where we're going to have 3 teams to keep an eye on. But I've said on our regular podcast, I can see our Colts team being the 16, 17, 18-year-olds. Once you get to 19, you're going to want to be playing with men.
Yes.
With men, as you said, and against them. So whether that's on loan up at Dunfermline or Peterhead or wherever, or as we said, we were talking about Jack Hendry before off air, he could have gone. What really helped his development was he come to 6 months to Australia. Then he went to Belgium. Then he's come back. So even if they're not within Scotland, if you've got Shamrock Rovers as a partner club, or if you get a team like Central Coast Mariners, for instance, over here in Australia, which is where Tommy Rogic come through, and a couple of guys go on loan there, it could work. So
absolutely. It's the perfect example there, sorry, as you say, is Daniel Church, but how many Daniel Churches do we have? It's great to talk about the success stories of Kieran Tierney, of James Forrest, of Callum McGregor, of Mikey Johnston, who's at least made the first team, perhaps not made the strides that he really should have, but that's a different discussion. But how many Daniel Churches? Look at Jack Aitchison.
Yeah.
Exactly, there you go. He's now, he was at Forest Green Rovers.
Brentford, I think it was.
He's there's Sam Wardrobe. He's playing for Adrionians, I'm pretty sure. It's like you say, it's there's Brooke Watsons, there's so many, there's Robbie Diaz up at Inverness. There's just so many kicking about.
Anyone?
Exactly. There's so many that we allow to filter through and to really fail upon. There's Stuart Finlay went to Kilmarnock, had a good couple of seasons there, and now he's out in Philadelphia, I'm sure. He's out in the States for definite. It's ridiculous, and that is my issue and my concern as a Celtic fan, is that I don't think this is the best route for our sort of development. The ideal scenario is bringing back the Reserves League. The Reserves League is the, everything that we're wanting is the Reserves League. And I speak to lots of former players through Soccer Supernova, and they all say, that's where you learn so much, because you're playing with obviously guys a lot your age, but you're getting all those players from the first team who are either A, coming back for injury, or B, not getting game time, and they are dying for you to up your game so their game looks better so they can make it back into that first team. Managers always put an eye on it, So the capitulation of the reserves league is basically the biggest problem.
Yeah, that's a massive issue. And something I touched on as well on another one of our podcasts, which ties into that, is you've said about a reserve league. Yes, I agree with you on that. But the problem is a lot of the clubs, it's finance in Scotland. A lot of the clubs can't afford to do that. So do we have a reserve league with the Irish clubs, or do we have a cross-border league with the guys in England, like in the Championship or League One and League Two, try and get in there and play a reserve team there? I don't know. I'm just throwing random ideas here. But one thing I did mention is, imagine if, I just want to get your take on it, because this is something I brought up and popped into my head then. So I just want to see if you're going to say, nah, hang up the call because you find this ridiculous or what, is the Scottish Cup and the FA Cup, keep them, they're great trophies, but the League Cup in both countries is Mickey Mouse. Put them together, make it a British League Cup.
Yeah.
What do you reckon on that?
There has actually been quite a bit of talk of that over the years here, especially down south. You know, you look at, if it be Liverpool, they'll play their 17s. They're not fussed by it. The League Cup, the FA Cup has a little bit of history, as you say, but I think up here the Scottish Cup is far greater respected than even the FA Cup is. We take a lot of pride in the Scottish Cup, we really do. But the League Cups, absolutely, I can get on board with what you're saying there. Obviously, it completes the treble, which is fantastic. It's probably a bit harder to say over the back of this season, the fact that St Johnstone have done the double. Absolutely, it's phenomenal. And really to be in that, journalism sort of world that I am starting to get into. It was absolutely fantastic to cover those games. And to be talking to the St Johnstone guys, I think the funniest thing is that where I live, I do still have a job in a supermarket, and St Johnstone captain Jason Kerr lives very, very close to me, so that's his local shop. And, he wins the Scottish Cup, comes in 2 days after, and he comes in and just does his regular shop, wins the League Cup as well, obviously earlier on in the season, and was just coming in, just quite happily, not anybody batting an eyelid. He's a local lad and he's just won the double. If that's Scott Brown or if that was James Tavernier, it'd be carnage. It'd be pandemonium. So it's great to see that, and I think that's the beauty of still both cups, not just the Scottish Cup. So I totally understand what you're saying. I think it is a bit harder to say it right on the back of St Johnstone's success, because then other clubs are going, well, if they guys can do it, then any of us can do it. Motherwell will be raising their eyebrows. Hibs won't be, because it's Hibs and they'll Hibs it. But there'll be other clubs, and in St Johnstone they'll be going for, the double. So
I loved it with St Johnstone for a couple of reasons. One, they won more trophies last year than Rangers. And all the hype of Stevie Jarrod, but, they won more trophies than him, so that was great. But the other thing for me is watching the Scottish Cup final every year over here. I've only ever cheered hard for other clubs other than Celtic was when Hibs won it with our guys on loan scoring and doing all that work to stop Rangers winning. That was I celebrated that one like we won it. And then this year, seeing St Johnstone do the double, I was so rapt for them.
Everybody
I felt dirty cheering a team on wearing blue and white, but still at the same time, that colour scheme. But no, it was great though. I'm happy for it.
And it's the beauty of football, and it's how everybody you can be brought together. It's kind of how we're talking about, obviously, again off air, how everybody up here, we all united, for Forza Azzurri last night. So it's amazing, and that's why we love football. We don't just love our team, but we love football.
Yep. And one thing about football that it has missed as fans, as you touched on earlier, so I'm so looking forward to this season. So we'll take that little segue and get back into the Celtic stuff there. So talking about Celtic, and just come in as manager, what's your take on the current club structure? Do you think we need a director of football?
Do Celtic Football Club have a structure right now? It's I think it's as blunt as that, and I think that's my biggest concern, is that I don't, the rebuild has officially started with Ange coming in, with Don Mackay coming in, but the rebuild in the way that I think we all expected and we all wanted, and especially we all needed, has not begun. We're sitting here right now, a week away from the Champions League qualifiers. We have no club captain. We have no new signings. We have no director of football. We have no and backroom staff. It's the inherited stuff. It's the dead weight. And it's a little bit of a concern for me. It really is. There's been a lot of talk over the last few days. Is Ange allowed his backroom staff in, or is he left with Strachan and Kennedy? There's been some reports coming out and saying that obviously he's been very impressed by them. If he's stuck with them, of course he's going to say he's impressed by them. My biggest concern is if that he was told that he's not allowed his own staff, because I find it remarkable that anybody could actually want to inherit both Kennedy and Strachan. Kennedy, I understand, very, very well respected within the club, very well liked, very knowledgeable as well. But Strachan, many of us do still have our doubts on.
It's funny you say that. Sorry to cut you off there, but I'm the other way here with Strachan. I actually think Ange would like Strachan more than Kennedy, because Strachan comes from that analytics stuff with his laptop and his iPad and all that. Ange is massive on that analytics and Moneyball type of football and player performance and that sort of stuff. So I actually think those two will get along a lot better than he would with Kennedy, because Kennedy probably wanted the job, let's be honest.
Yeah, I think there's the chance that that's a fantastic point you make. Obviously, that as well, we all sort of joke about wee Strachan and his laptop. So perhaps it is almost the combination that we never thought was going to be perfect, but it clearly is. I would just have liked to have seen him have somebody by his side who was his own man. It's everything we really talked about with, obviously, with Neil Lennon, that he inherited the backroom staff, and that was a disaster really waiting to happen. And of course it did happen. His success was helped back in the day when he had Johan Mjällby on one side, Alan Thompson on the other, and we mental Gary Parker as well. So it's I think it's inevitable in any sort of working situation that you're going to excel or work better, at least with somebody with your own support network. You've got to have that shoulder to lean on, shoulder to cry on even. And at Celtic, my God, you must need to and want to cry. That it's a bit daunting, coming into these two guys, especially one in particular with such a strong link to Celtic, and another one whose dad's got such a strong link to Celtic and kind of always seems to be sniffing about one way or another. But I do love Gordon Strachan. So
the funny thing I want to bring up from what the history with Ange over here and other roles he's had, when he went into South Melbourne and took over there, he was a former player. He went there to the youth and then came up. He didn't bring on his own staff. Yes. He then went into Brisbane, into the A-League, to Brisbane Roar. When he went there, came in because the current head coach, Frank Farina, got done for drink driving and was sacked. So he took on his staff, built up the squad, made one staff change the following season, and then went on 36 games straight winning streak, won the comp back-to-back years. Then when he come to Melbourne Victory, where I'm a ticket holder over here, he come in, didn't bring his staff with him, come in, had Kevin Muscat as assistant manager and built that program up, left for the Australian national team, but then Victory went on and won comp the following year after Ange left. So when he went to Japan, he kept their guys and brought one or two guys in later date, but he didn't bring them in straight away. He's not the sort where I think that would be an issue for him. He likes to go in. He's actually said it in some interview somewhere. I don't know who it was with, though, where he likes to come in, work with new people, see how it is, and then he goes, if I need a new strength and conditioning coach, bring someone in. If he needs this, bring it in and grow his staff. So I don't think Kennedy and Strachan are necessarily going to be his assistant manager. I think he might bring someone in later and maybe push down a rung or two. But I can understand the concern everyone's got. But at the same time, you look at Lennon and having Kennedy and Strachan, I think the issue there is a separate issue because Ange is a pretty modern manager, where Lennon's a bit of a dinosaur, in my opinion. Come at me in the comments, anyone, if you don't agree. So that's my take on it. So I'm actually not worried about Ange not having his own staff now, because the other thing is he needs to have those guys there helping him, because if he does bring someone in from Japan that he's worked with or from Australia that he's worked with, they're going to have to do 10 days quarantine. then they're going to have to come and find a house and get in a hotel, whatever, and then get stuck in and do all that stuff off the pitch to then be settled. So it's going to take time. We don't have time at the moment. So
we have no time, exactly. I have heard, obviously, what you said there, and I've definitely heard, that before. And I think it was actually through you guys saying that, the whole his own backroom staff isn't an issue for him. I think it's definitely heightened within us in the Scottish fan support, and I don't know if it's because we have such a perception, of the Scottish football cauldron, and everybody is all that, if you're stepping into it, you have no idea what you're really walking into. And I think that's really where it all comes from, saying that we think that somebody needs to have a support network. And I don't know if it's almost like kind of thinking that we're probably a bit better than what we actually are, and probably not giving the guy credit. But I think that's part of the issue, that it's that belief that we think he's going to need somebody. He's going to need somebody in to help him through this.
Sorry.
I do. I think there's definitely a part of that. But like you say, the whole issue of quarantining and everything that comes with that is a mess right now, in the sense that we don't have time. And I know beforehand you were saying, of course, with Ange in particular, patience will definitely pay off as long as you really give it. But my patience is wearing so thin right now, it's unbelievable. I'm quite calm in most scenarios and almost anything. But right now, wow, panic stations are setting in. And it's just alarming that we are 8 days away from a Champions League qualifier and there is no real development, probably since about February on the pitch. Since Lennon left, there's no real, you're not going, wow, there's been a few pre-season friendlies. I think some people are actually getting a little bit carried away, perhaps that's how some players have been playing. They're bounce games for a reason. They're also only playing about 30 minutes, 45 minutes at a time, and that's it. So I think it's okay to be as nervous as I am and as concerned as I am.
Yeah, it's kind of, to me, it's weird. Like, you're spot on there, where if we suddenly made like a batch of signings, say 3 or 4 were announced, because we've got like 2 days or something to sign guys before the cutoff, before the first cutoff, and then we can add 2 more up until the day before the game. So, say if today he was announced as Carl Starfelt come in, Vuskovic comes in, and another striker comes in, and another winger comes in the next 48 hours, it's 3 or 4 signings. Would you feel more relaxed after that?
Absolutely.
Really? Yeah. See, so that's all it is. That's what it is. It's just people are impatient because we've got no time. We need players. I'm the same. I feel exactly the same way, Amy, but it's just, yeah. I don't know.
It's that whole, transfers, it means there's movement, and it just means that it's like, right, the board and the club and the management, they're aware of the situation we're in, that we are ultimately extremely light and that we can't carry on the way that obviously we went last season, and that we need bodies and we need numbers. So change and movement is needed, and it's because everything is just so stale right now. It's just so, it's not stop-start, it's just literally stop. And I understand you've got to give Ange a little bit of time, and I know I'm contradicting myself. You've got to give him a little bit of time to see the players, to see if he can, find the £5 million Barkas, find the player in the £5 million Albion Ayeti. But at the same time, you're thinking, wow, if he doesn't, then we're up a certain creek without a paddle.
So with that in mind, then, how do you think our recruitment's been over the last 12 to 18 months? You can swear if you want to swear, but you just said up a certain creek, so I'm going to take it there's no swearing there.
I'm trying not to still live under my mum and dad's roof, so I better be careful. It is, over the last 12 to 18 months, diabolical seems a little bit severe, but it's not a kick in the teeth off it from my point of view. It's not been positive on the incomings or the outgoings. There's so many pieces of business that you're like, could have got more, should have got more. You look at the valuation of Kieran Tierney. You just sit there and go, wow, should we really have pushed for an extra 5 million? Of course we should have. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, I understand that. But on the course of, incomings as well, it's just been a disaster. You just need to look at the last window. This time last year, we're thinking, but remember that tweet was put out like, oh, what a window.
We thought it was an amazing window. I'm being honest. I'm not going to go back with revision history. People can go back and check last year's pods. Like for me, I actually thought it was a great window.
Yeah, exactly. And so the club would have what a window. But
you're trying to find the word before it's ended up where we are now. It's somewhere between shambolic and shithouse. That's in my opinion. That's where we are.
And it's almost that we've came resigned to the fact that that's really what a Celtic transfer window is. We probably were a bit far too optimistic last year. We should have thought, remember, we're Celtic. Someone's going to go wrong here. It's not going to be also plain sailing. How many have we had that, we were so close to signing him. We were so close to signing him. I don't want to go into Ivan Toney, but Ivan Toney, it's a disaster. It's been disaster after disaster.
So I look at it going, well, we're talking about for our next topic, which we'll just roll it straight into that. So the next question I was going to ask you is, what current players do you think will be moving on in the next 6 to 12 months? Now, I'll start this one off with Chris Iyer.
He has to go. No.
Talking about our recruitment, what it was, and with people wanting to move on, to tie that in, Chris Iyer is a perfect example. If we accepted that 12 million plus add-ons, for instance, from Norwich, for instance, or Brentford or whoever it was for Iyer, and then we spent 4 million on Starfelt, 4 million on Nisbet, 4 million on Hickey, for instance. That's one player who's going to get us 3 starting quality players for our team. That's just picking random names that we're linked with. That's good business.
It's fantastic business. It's clever business.
Celtic doesn't think that way.
It's business that a club of Celtic stature should be able to complete, and should certainly be able to at least be thinking of. I think it's absolutely frightening that Celtic have turned down this deal from Brentford, the 12 million plus 3 million in add-ons, at the stage that we're at. Now, if you actually have asked me 6 months ago, I'd be saying, 20 million for Iyer. I was rating him so highly, probably been a little bit optimistic as well, but probably with a little bit of arrogance. And at that point, maybe not 6 months ago, maybe 10 months ago, was hoping that he'd be coming out a 10 in a row winner. So it's
eating a bit of humble pie and
exactly
lower their expectations off the back of last year.
It's so much of that this year. But the biggest determining factor for me is, of course, Iyer has publicly came out and said, my Celtic career is basically done. We have almost a gentleman's agreement between myself and the club that they're going to let me pursue other options at the end of this season. We have to, respect those wishes. He'd done what he was asked to do, to try and deliver the 10. He didn't. Not his fault single-handedly. Probably played the greatest part. And at least trying to, get the 10. But that, I don't want players at Celtic who do not want to be at Celtic. It's a waste of a wage. It's a waste of a jersey. And just let him. He's been a really good servant for the club. He's come under a lot of flack, and from myself at times as well. Remember last season against Copenhagen at Parkhead. Remember that disaster at the back, the calamity at the back that a goal obviously followed late on in the game. And many were calling for his head. Don't want to see Iyer in a Celtic shirt again. But he came, bounced back and put in a really good season this season. He's been many fans, player of the year. And certainly if it wasn't for the inclusion of David Turnbull, he'd have strolled every single Celtic award, no matter how much they really shouldn't have been warranted this season. But for me, he has to go. We have to move on. We have this rebuild. He wants out. We have to let him out. I don't want Christie at the club if he doesn't want to be here. I don't want Edouard at the club if he doesn't want to be here. And with only a year left on their deals and only 6 months on Christie's, we really have to be taking anything we're getting. It's been a very, very quiet transfer window for a reason, because clubs are struggling with COVID, and the clubs are struggling over here with Brexit as well, all the implications of that, who really you can buy from, who you can't, for what price. Everything's a bit wheel right now. So the fact that there was a good bit of money, like you say, that can then really be turned into probably about 3 signings, then, that's fantastic business in my eyes.
Well, we're talking about Christie and the contract situations of a few guys on our regular pod. And I said to the guys, if Christie doesn't take a move, like with Patrick Vieira now at Crystal Palace, and he was linked with him when he was at Nice, If an offer comes in, sell him. Accept it, as you said. Whatever the offer is, accept it. Get him off the wage bill. See you later. Done. But if he doesn't get a move and he doesn't want to extend his contract, I said to the boys, 6 months to go, just put him in the Colts for 6 months. He can go play in the Lowland League. As far as I'm concerned, if he doesn't want to be at the club, he can go play down there. Not trying to disrespect your Lowland League. I'm just saying, like, I don't want him as part of Ange's squad.
Oh, neither do I. You don't want him putting in performances exactly to just really try and, get himself a better move or anything like that. Keep himself match fit. We're not training facilities. We're not just here to facilitate to him then when he's basically hanging Celtic out to dry. And that's what it's like, running down the contract for everything the club have done for him. It's all about attitude as well, isn't it?
Yeah. Like Christie and Cham's come out and said, I want to be at Celtic. I call bollocks on that. Like, honestly, no. He's gone and done it. He doesn't need to.
That's the issue. He's trying to come out and say, obviously, that, I want to carry on playing for Celtic and I want to try and rejuvenate my career. It's because there's nobody else out there that wants him. Marseille didn't even want him. He tipped Andre Villas-Boas over the edge, And I know Marseille were going through a lot of difficulties at that time, and just the signing of Cham wasn't. But it was the final straw that broke the camel's back, because he's just like, no, nobody. And Cham is so hot and cold, and there is a player in there. There's a really talented player, because we've seen glimpses of it, but that's the issue. It's been glimpses. You can't have a player who's going to, maybe turn up again a big game, maybe put a winner past Lazio or Rangers, but put in basically a half-arsed effort against St Mirren.
And get red carded for an early shower because he can't be bothered. Yep. Like, exactly. I would honestly rather have Luke O'Connell and Henderson in the midfield or sitting on our bench than those two. If they're not going to commit and be part of it, I'd rather have them in our first team squad, and the other guys can just go, as far as I'm concerned. Like,
absolutely. Like I say, you do not want a player at the club who doesn't want to be at the club.
Yeah. We're not a stepping stone. We've got to turn, get rid of that stepping stone FC sort of thing that, Lawwell would sell it as part of the thing. Like, you want guys to think we're a destination club. And that's one thing I will give Rangers credit for, is that since Jarrod has been there, they go into the market, they go, we want this player, deal gets done quickly, because they're a destination club. People want to play at Rangers because I know that's the biggest club they're going to play for in their career. Under Jarrod, who's the biggest name manager they'll probably play for. And then you look at us and you had Neil Lennon bringing in all these big name players like Laxalt, Duffy, and so on, and nothing. Didn't get anything out of him. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely. So it's tough, and I don't understand. I don't think that a lot are really actually talking about it. That Rangers just made a fantastic signing in John Lundstrom. He was absolutely exceptional a few years ago in Sheffield United. That season they finished 5th or 6th or something like that in the EPL. And Chris Wilder had him playing absolutely fantastic. And the reason I know that, he was in my fantasy Premier League team, and he was extraordinary. The points I got was exceptional. So it's like you see,
great to play it like that in your fantasy team, isn't it?
Exactly.
And that the Leicester one, I had Mahrez from day one.
Oh, fantastic! He was so cheap as well, because it was.
I got him for 2.3 million. I remember the exact amount I got him for.
That's insane. I will go for John McGinn, because they still always, value him so low, because they're just so arrogant. I had Kieran Tierney as well. Bit on and off with the injuries, of course, but it's exactly what you're saying there. There's the lucrative deal really to Rangers right now, and that is the draw of Jarrod. Of course you're going to want to play under Steven Gerrard. We can all sit here, but if you asked 5-10 years ago, Gerrard's as a legend as a player, and many midfielders and attackers, you're going to think, wow, I just want to actually work with a guy.
Yeah, and it's nothing to do with, as you said, it's got nothing to do with his coaching ability. I actually reckon his best strength is his coaching ability, is his support team around him.
Yeah.
We're talking about with Ange early on. Watch this space. I think there'll be a couple brought in as the season goes on. But I'm not trying to big up Rangers but at the moment, they're a destination club. We're guys coming in wanting to come in here, spend a year or two with us, and then move on. So, yeah, we've got to stop that being a transition club or, being the airport, departures lounge, and get people to come in and want to be there for 4 or 5 years plus. Like, Larson was the best. He come in, he had so many chances to leave. He's 7 years. After that, you're like, okay, fine, no problem. I've got another one I'm going to say, which is going to sound really weird after Larson, but Boyata, he had his chance to move. It fell apart. People were booing him and were against him. But did he put in a solid effort after that whole AEK Athens thing happened the rest of that season before he left us? I think he did. He didn't pull up stumps and not want to put in any effort like guys did last year.
You're spot on, exactly. And it's just that desire to still want to play for the club. So, yeah, the deals obviously makes it a little bit obvious that they do want to go in the case of Boyata, but it's not letting them get to their head because at the end of the day, Celtic still pay your wages.
Exactly. And we'd only be lucky to be in their situation. Like
exactly.
What they earned, geez, happy days.
Be laughing.
So what areas of the team do you think we need to strengthen?
So I'd like another goalkeeper brought in, I really would. I understand, and it's clear that already Ange is getting behind Barkey. He's trying to find that £5 million player within him. That remains to be seen. I am still a little bit dubious on Barkas. I really am. I know there's some out there who think that there is such a player in there, and there has to be. He is of Champions League quality, but there's nothing so far in this past year that has slightly, made me think, wow, we're okay here. We're in safe hands, literally.
We're calling James on our podcast. Never seen him save a ball in his life.
Nope, and I'm a little bit concerned there. I'd like another centre-half in. I'd like a left-back. I'd like a left mid. A striker. Do I need any more? I'd be content if that was it. Anything else was a bonus. But that's the
one.
What have I missed?
Are you going to keep Ralston playing right back, are you?
Oh, actually. Yeah, right back.
Yeah, for me, it's like, I'm not sure what Barkas is like, but goalkeeper, if he improves, great. But if we could bring in, say, Matt Ryan, for instance, who hasn't signed with Sociedad yet, but he's rumoured to be.
I thought that was announced. I thought that was announced today.
Oh, okay. Well, it wasn't when I checked an hour before I came with you.
Yeah, I think it is.
Oh,
I'm sure it is.
But
I'll double check, but I think it is.
If we could have got Matt Ryan, I would have been like, okay, cool. If we can't get him, if he's gone, then I'll stick with Barkas for 6 months, fine, and give Andrew a chance to build him. But I'm a massive fan of, I don't like Scott Bain. I like Connor Hazard. But will Connor Hazard want to play too? I think he needs to go somewhere like, if Siegrist leaves Dundee United, put him on loan to Dundee, put Hazard on loan at Dundee United for the season. That would be perfect for me. Get him some Premier League experience. And then at the end of the season, if Bain hangs around for another 12 months, fine. If he's on loan, if Hazard's on loan, if Barkas is no good in 12 months' time, then we've got to punt him. And then at least Hazard's got a full season experience in the top flight and he's ready to jump in and have a crack at it. Could save some money there.
Absolutely. It's a great plan. Matt Ryan definitely has signed for Sociedad. Yeah. Which I just wanted to double check. I'm sure I saw the picture before
I haven't seen the picture, but it's early over here. It was like...
absolutely. I will let you off. It is supposed to be peak time. But it's gutting. I was really quite excited about Matt Ryan. I really was.
It doesn't surprise me when to Spain.
Exactly, yes. You're bringing in a bit of solidity with them. So I would definitely still like to have a little bit of strength there. On
a positive though, we do avoid the punch-ons between Ryan and Rogic because those two aren't on the best terms. I don't know if you guys have heard that.
They're not friends?
They used to be teammates and housemates at Central Coast Mariners over here. And Rogic is so laid back and relaxed, and Ryan is like regimented. Training starts at this time. We've got to be out the door at this time, blah, 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 bang, 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 got to get it done. And they'd carpool together to training and all sorts up from Sydney. And there's interviews where Matt Ryan was asked, who's your least favourite teammate you ever played with? Oh, that's Tom Rogic because he just drives me insane. So you've got that. And it was actually a serious answer. It wasn't really nice because afterwards there was some Twitter follow-up where someone tagged I think it was actually on Instagram, someone tagged him and there's like, Yeah, that sounds about right from Rogic. And then in the Australia team, you never really see them celebrating together. So, no big deal. But
maybe missed the trick there.
Yeah, but anyway, still would have loved him because quality keeper.
Absolutely.
Definitely need a right back, although I do like Leo Connor. I think
I do as well. The issue with me, or for me, is that a lot of his time last year at Tranmere, he was kind of shifted into the midfield.
And that's what I was just about to say. I like him at right back. However, I don't think he's going to be a long-term right back. He's either going to be a defensive midfielder or he's going to be a centre back long-term.
It's just it's a worry. It's maybe a little bit poor from Celtic because I know you can't force it, obviously, at Tranmere, but at the end of the day, still a Celtic player to really be saying, look, we need them to have experience here in the right back. Yeah. Doesn't look the best from that sort of perspective that he played so much of his time in the midfield and he was really pushed forward. So it is there's just so many areas of concern.
And then I've got centre back. We need a left-sided centre-back. However, so do we go for try and get Davies on loan? Do we sign someone, one of the other guys that we need another centre-back, period. But then we do need a specialist one who's more left-footed. So do we give Leo Helger the chance, or do we try and bring someone like Davies in from loan or buy him from Liverpool? He apparently wants to stay there anyway, but that's a concern for me. I'm not concerned with left-back, in that I like Taylor. I'm probably the only person who does.
No, I have a group chat called Greg Taylor Fan Club. I really am in Greg Taylor's fan club. Totally and utterly love the man. But I just would like a little bit. I think it would help him maybe urge him on a little bit. But perhaps Luke O'Connell's got that within him. On the point of Ben Davies, I'm a little bit, this is when I'm probably just still a little bit far too petty. And I'm like, well, he kind of shafted us really in January. Don't just come running back.
It seems like what we were talking about earlier, but does he really want to be at the club?
Yes, exactly. And I like Leo Helst. I saw him a little bit for Ross County last season and I was extremely impressed by him. I'm not so impressed with his haircut right now. He's kind of going for like the Gaza slash Phil Foden. That really worked for Phil Foden.
Haircut.
But you could pull it. So it's a tough one with Davies. I'm not so convinced now because I'm just a little bit like, so now you want us.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of, it's going to sound weird. It's kind of like, you break up with someone, but then a little while later, it's like, actually, you were so great for me. Can I come back together? It sounds like that to me. And it's like, I don't know. I'd rather give Leo the run because you've got clubs like Leeds and stuff sniffing around him. And I'd rather, knowing Ange and the way he likes to bring players through,
absolutely,
he could be a big one for us. Get him in, sign him up on an extension, and give him first team minutes. I don't think he's necessarily going to be the player for us this year, but if he establishes himself in the squad the way Welsh did last season, he could be a big-time player for us next year and beyond.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, left back, we've got Taylor. Bolingoli.
I can't get onto it,
I can't forgive him, but he is a perfect Ange player. And that's the thing that gives me the shits, to be honest with you, because we're not going to get our £3 million we spent for him back. Let's be honest here. And he's the exact sort of player Ange loves as his wing backs. But I think what he's
well.
Was that?
Yeah, exactly. I can't forgive him for what he done, but I think he's a woeful defender. He really worries me. Going forward, he's quite convincing, but at the back, I am concerned when it's a 1v1. I never ever fancied him in any of those scenarios.
That's why I'd rather Greg Taylor.
Exactly. Hence why the Greg Taylor fan club. You can join the group.
I'm officially a member. Done.
You're in. It's okay. Your name's there. Sorted.
Oh, good. Yeah. So I think we might need a left back, but I mentioned him earlier, Hickey. I'm not. I'd rather Doidge, to be honest with you. I
really like Josh Doig at Hibs. I really do. Hickey again is just it would be a perfect showing of Celtic's poor business. For starters, of course, he was a Celtic development player. Yeah. Then this time last year, we could have got him, I think, for 1.8 million if we wanted him.
And they're going to pay more than double that again.
I know it's going to need to be more than double that. And it's just like, wow, it's just full circle. And again, I just think it shows Celtic's ridiculous transfer strategy.
The thing with Hickey as well, I'm just going to say, he seems like too much of a pretty boy for my liking. I need defenders who look like they would break your legs. And even though Taylor doesn't have that look about him, I have seen him go through people with studs up. So, he does have that bit of a mean streak about him where, to me, Hickey looks like the guy he'd want to be everyone's mate at the pub after a game. So it sounds weird, but yeah, I don't know.
Very much on the fence. He sits very much on the fence.
Yeah. So I think the midfield's fine. You touched on the left wing. Perfect. Yes, we do need another left winger. Right wing, we've got Karamoko to back up Jamesy, so I'm happy there. The number 10 role is full. We don't need anyone there. So another striker for me.
Absolutely.
Left midfield. Now, left winger, I mean. Here's a name for you. Marco Tilio. Plays for Melbourne City over here.
Okay.
He's got his European passport because of his background. So getting him in right now before Brexit shouldn't be an issue. He's absolute little weapon. He's like Arzani, but looks like he's on steroids. Like he's just big, stocky guy. And he's a tricky winger that likes to come inside, which is what Angel likes from his wingers because then he can have the overlap from the fullback.
Yep.
So there's a guy I saw in the A-League Grand Final a few weeks back tear it up, and I'm just like, get him in.
I'm on board with you. I take your word.
They would have heard of it, but yeah.
I can't offer a better solution to that, so I will. You can guarantee I'll be looking him up after this chat.
Okay, so now we've gone through the team and the current lineup. Amy, who would your all-time favourite Celtic player be and why, other than Henrik Larsson?
So this is even before my time.
Jeez, here we go.
Yeah, it can be before my time, yeah?
Anything. Yeah, your all-time favourite.
I've been sitting on this one like all afternoon. It's been so tricky. And I think I have to go Paul McStay.
You're in the fan club. We're good.
Fantastic. We're sorted. I do live in my own fan club with Joe Ledley. I am the only one in there. But Paul McStay, Larsson is up there. But the reason I'm behind Paul McStay is because who I was kind of referring to earlier, my uncle just has had such a massive impact on everything that I do. And footballing, through my journalism, through everything. And I used to stay with him a lot when I was younger. So that's my dad now saying that I should be saying Kenny Dalglish because on his screensaver is Kenny Dalglish. He's obviously not very happy about that. But I have seen far more footage of Paul McStay at Celtic than I have of Kenny Dalglish. So it's his own fault. Everything that McStay sort of, stood for, stands for, still even, is exactly what you want in a Celtic player. And a Celtic captain and a Celtic legend. I've watched so many YouTube clips over the years, and just a magician with the ball at his feet. To be, I was obviously alluding to earlier, those tough times that I never really, obviously, went through, but those times were the toughest. But he was the beacon of light.
I know all about that because that's what it was for me growing up.
And, I think that obviously emphasises exactly just the great man that McStay was. I'd certainly love a McStay in our side right now. So the fact that I can't go with Larsson, I'll go with McStay. I'd really go with Joe Ledley, but I feel I need to calm down on my association with him. So I'll go with McStay.
I'll say something. The closest thing I've seen to, in my opinion, the way he runs with the ball and carries the ball moving forward from midfield to McStay in a Celtic shirt would probably be Turnbull. I see a lot of state traits in Turnbull.
So Laura Bradburn on A Celtic State of Mind actually made this comparison a while ago. And she received pelters for it. Proper abuse. They were like, how dare you? This was maybe after only about 6 or 7 games. Somebody revisited it a few months later and they were like, maybe you're actually onto something a bit. And she said right away, you're not trying to compare.
Oh, exactly. You're not saying it's the same player, but it's the way he moves the ball.
Exactly. And she said that basically exactly what you said there. So, there could be a few eating humble pie in a few years, and I certainly hope so, not just for Laura's sake, but it would be exceptional if Turnbull could turn into half the player that McStay was.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, McStay is my all-time favourite, and he lives about 1,000 kilometres that way, north of where I am at the moment in Sydney.
Amazing. What a pleasure of a man.
Yeah, great bloke. All right, Amy, here we get to the fun stuff. Who would be your all-time top 5 players that you've seen play for Celtic in your lifetime? So it can't be people before you were born.
It's tricky. It's so tricky. Because then you've got your fan favourites, and that almost overshadows their actual talent. So for starters, I'm going to go Larsson. I was a bit young, but it counts. He was in my lifetime, so I'm going for it. I'm absolutely going for it.
Good.
Exactly. I've more than made up for it. I cannot tell you the amount of love and affection that growing up, that it was just all Henrik Larsson. Everything when I was younger, it was Henrik Larsson was this, Henrik Larsson was that. He was absolutely everywhere. He was just like the guy next door, because everything in my life it was so around him. His name, I don't know, it could be a conversation about anything, and Henrik Larsson would manage to make it way into that conversation. It was totally and utterly consuming. And growing up, there's no real better introduction to football than really getting to see somebody like that at work, because, wow, just so blessed for him to be at Celtic for 7 years.
From standards set nice and high from early days, now everyone else is just down the bottom here.
Exactly. I'm just going all in right now, Larsson. So it's Henrik has to be in there. Absolutely, there's no denying that. Second player, I'll go Lubin Moravchik, and the reason that I'm going Lubin Moravchik as well is because I've actually seen him, I think, 3 times in testimonials. Obviously, I never saw him live when I was younger because I was just a bairn. But even in the testimonials at 50 plus, the guy strolled the game. Absolutely strolled the game. Playing against, I think there was one of them, he was up against John Terry. And Terry, I think, was actually still playing at the time. I think he could have been at Villa or was just about to go to Villa, because I think there were actually links that he was maybe going to be signing for Celtic at that time, just before he went there. Yeah.
Online was fun.
Exactly. Short-lived. But, even at that age, Lubo was still... His vision was incredible. Still, obviously, nobody knows if he's left-footed or right-footed, but just pinging balls left, right and centre. And it's just such a joy to watch. So he's in there. Before I forget, I have to chuck in my man Joe Ledley. He is just, it's just, I think...
To be honest, yeah, it's just everything.
What was that, sorry?
It's just a crush. It's for not football reasons, it's just because you got love for him.
I do. I genuinely think that he went underrated in that squad as well, though, in that team. He was a vital part of it. And there was a reason why he was, one of the close vice captains. There was a real captain's unit at that time, with obviously Scott Brown at the helm, but there was, Charlie Mulgrew, Joe Ledley. There was a few of them who could easily fill in for that. And I really loved that Celtic side. I was getting a little bit older. I think I was probably just going into about first year at high school. So I was about 12, 13. And that's when, it was just that pre-Barcelona, so first year Lennon side, and everything was just sort of clicking with Ki Sung-young as well. Chris Commons was coming in, Hooper and Stokes up top. They were both absolutely phenomenal. And it was just a really good feel around the club. Obviously, Rangers were nowhere to be seen by 13, 14 as well. So everything was just sort of successful. But for me, Ledley just played such an incredible part of that. Player number 4, Kieran Tierney. He was just a kid. He was just a fan living all our dreams. And I think the age that I was going at, obviously, he's only just a couple years older than me as well. And you just were like, wow, look at this guy go. He's only a few years older than me, and he is literally living the dream. One exceptional talent. It was so... it speaks volumes, the fact that nobody was actually really that bitter. Well, there was a few that were bitter when he left, but nobody could really begrudge him. I think we all wanted it to probably be a better and bigger club, just at the state that Arsenal are at right now. They're not pushing for league titles. They're not really progressing in Champions League, albeit if they're even qualifying for Champions League, they're a real Europa League club right now and have been for a few seasons. So they've not hit the heights that maybe they were under Wenger 10 years ago in the Van Persie and Fabregas sort of era, Santi Cazorla. So it was a little bit disappointing to see him to go there, of course, but it's where he saw the progression, and he's loved down there, and it's fantastic to see that he's loved down there and he's succeeding so well. You're hearing all of this talk that Luke Shaw's the best left back in the world right now. There's Tierney and there's Powell. It's not close. It's not even close. So Tierney's up there, and I think it's just because he's just so connected with them. It's all about getting the club. It's all we talk about, that you just want somebody to come in and get the club. Somebody who we've always also been linked to. He's not in my top 5, but Eric Sviatchenko. He always got the club. I'm glad to see that those rumours of signed kind of disappeared. Not that I wouldn't have him back, but I just think it's such a poor move for Celtic to really go back for a guy who we let go just a few years ago.
We call that the recycling over here in the A-League, because the salary you sign someone, the recycling logo emoji thing goes up whenever you sign someone. So that's what that would have been.
That is amazing. Yeah. I love that. And then the final player, I feel a bit guilty because there's two obvious, and I maybe shouldn't have chucked Ledley in. So if I take out my love for Ledley, I would go Nakamura/Dembele. Ledley I just of course wanted to mention, but Dembele, I have to go Nakamura. I loved him, and I was probably just still a little bit too young, but he was the attraction and the love to Celtic. It was the free kicks, against Kilmarnock. It was the free kicks against Man United. It was just like, wow, what is this little magician doing? What's he going to do next? It was just the excitement when the ball landed at his feet, or when it was a dead ball, because you're like, wow, Naka's over it. But in recent years, of course, Dembele's brought so much joy. And I absolutely loved the guy. From day dot, he was absolutely tremendous. That hat-trick against Rangers, it was everything that, the perfect hat-trick, exactly. It was just the perfect connection. And the way that he's handled himself since leaving the club, the connection that he still shows, so classy. He loves the club. He got the club. I'm talking about Sviatchenko, but Dembele got the club and he still gets it. And, you just wish him nothing but success. I wouldn't know a Celtic fan that has a bad word to say about him. Handled himself so well, so graciously. And obviously he came back to Parkhead, I remember that. When the title was won and it was the parade and all of that shenanigans. But even the simple little tweets, that's the way that you keep the fans on side. And I want him to be the very, very best.
I could honestly see Dembele and Tierney both coming back to end their careers with us, because they love their time here that much.
Tierney, I can. Tierney, I pray to God. I really pray to God that he comes back, and it would be coming home. And Dembele, it would be. I wouldn't put it past them, actually, because there's not many foreign players that you would actually say that with, that you think, they'll come back, because they don't have that connection. It's not ending it with your boyhood club, but Dembele's loved here, and Dembele knows that he's loved here.
And you can tell he honestly keeps up with what's happening, and he watches the games, because he's always tweeting, and he's always talking about something topical whenever he does tweet about Celtic. So it's like he's a fan like us. He loves the club. He keeps up on it. Absolutely. So you can see him going. You don't see him doing that about Fulham. You don't see him doing that about, was it Lyon he was at? You don't see him doing that. If you look at his Twitter, it's the only previous club of his that he mentions on any time he tweets is Celtic. So I could see him coming back to us.
I'd love it. Absolutely love it.
All right, Amy, what are some of the most memorable games you've seen Celtic play, and what's so memorable about them?
It's a tough one, because you're trying to get to
one game.
What was that, sorry?
It's not one game, it's games, plural. So two or three you want to rattle off or whatever, go for it.
So for atmosphere-wise, actually, at Parkhead is Celtic 3, Inter Milan 3 a few years ago. John Guidetti scores at the death. Liam Henderson, just a little slip ball in. It was absolutely magnificent. But it was a freezing, proper freezing February night. And obviously Celtic went behind twice, early doors, in the first half. One of them was actually, there was a Craig Gordon error in there, but the fans never hounded him, actually got behind them, because throughout the whole season, Gordon had actually been exceptional up to that point. But the way that it worked out was that my mum, myself and my brother were at one bit, and then we couldn't get 4 tickets together. So my dad was just slightly like on the other side of the steps. So not the different section. So within the section of the stand was just like, it's obviously divided by the staircase, and he was just on another side. So he was sitting by himself, bless him, or standing by himself. But it was a whole atmosphere. So obviously the first one conceded, and I am the older one, although my little brother's, I say little, he's about 6'5" and so much taller than me. And 19 next week, so he's not very little, but he's I'm the older one, obviously. I'm in sports journalism, so as much as he loves his football, it's me and my dad is we love it, and we've got a really great bond with it. So I just remember obviously the first goal going in, and like I just like looked over to my dad, and it was just like my eyes were like, oh my god, this is going to be a really long night. Obviously the second goes in, and we're like, oh, here we go. And then obviously we get back on terms, and it was just the jubilation in that equaliser right at the death, to make it 3-3. And I don't think I've actually really ever like felt a feeling like it, because there was that sense of relief. You'd have thought it was a victory, and that's what I mean. I've celebrated great victories at Celtic Park, I really have, but the sense of victory just in a draw, because it was a very classy Inter Milan side. Shaqiri was playing, he scored as well, but it was a decent team, and Pardy was playing up top, and it was just an all round, it was a fantastic night. I remember walking back to where you leave the cars, and the guys give me a few pounds to watch your car, mister. But it was amazing. It was so amazing. And I just looking back on it, because I think we left with real belief. And at that time, obviously, Celtic hadn't won in Italy in however many years, if ever. And it was just like, wow, we've gave ourselves a real chance here, like a real chance. Because in years gone by, really, up and obviously the Barcelona year, but other than that, and obviously getting knocked out by Juventus, but there wasn't that real progression anywhere beyond group stage football for Celtic. The last 16, I was a little bit too young every time. So there was just a belief, and I just guess I never really felt that before. But the 3-3 game really sticks out. It was half-term break here as well, so we're on our holidays, and it was just a great family day. It really was. It's as simple as that.
Another game off air before we started recording, and you just mentioned then about with Italian teams and stuff like that. So I believe Lazio is one of your games.
It is. So two, obviously, and Olivia and Cham, the winner. It just seems like 2 minutes ago, when things were all going so well with Celtic, it was just a great night. So it was a Thursday night, obviously, Europa League football. And that season, I don't know why, so I think I must have been 19. I must have been 19. I know, I was just thinking back. So I was at uni. I'm at uni in Edinburgh as well. So my dad works in Edinburgh, and we just started that season. Don't know why we never done the season before, but I found obviously through uni I was going to this little Irish pub, and they were obviously showing Celtic games that season for European football. And I remember like chaffing my dad and saying, "Well, I'll meet you uptown after your work, and we'll go to the pub and watch the game there." And it's such a silly little thing, but I think for a girl as well, it just doesn't. Remember when I was growing up, it never really seemed like it was ever going to be an option. I know that sounds silly, but it was always my dad and my uncles going to the games, or going to the pub, or my dad and his friends going to the pub. It was never really like a girl's domain. Thankfully, it's changed so much. And I'm so grateful that it has. So obviously, at the time, my little brother was still far too young to drink. So it was just a very much a me and my dad thing. And it was just the sheer I actually have it on video, which is amazing. I don't know why, because I never video anything in my life. I'm so bad. I never take a single photo. I'm terrible. I'm going on holiday next week and I'll probably come back with about 2 pictures. Like I'm dreadful. I take no pictures, no selfies, nothing like that. So I obviously had this belief. Obviously, it was the dying moments. Obviously, when the ball was intercepted, I must have had my phone, so I had Snapchat on and had the video recording, and obviously it's facing, so like the phone's down and it's facing up to the ceiling originally, and then I flip it up when it scores, when Encham scores to me and my dad, and it's just sheer emotion. So I can constantly relive it, which is kind of amazing as well. But I don't need to, because it's so engraved in my mind. The jubilation between us and the sheer joy, a little bit drunk, but it was fantastic, and it was one of those, it was a proper dad and daughter moment that now you've just got to take, like, wow, it's crazy that we've not had anything like that. We've talked about it all season. Actually, we're like, God, we should be at the pub watching this together. And I think it was quite a moment for him as well. He's remarkable in the way that he's always supported me throughout, my career and going into sports journalism. He's been a massive help. I always talk about it, that it started when, like in the corner at football, and it'll say like EVE, Everton. So like I was always, when I was younger, I'd always guess who the team was. And it, obviously then everything started to click. And it was the building blocks, but my dad, he never got slow or sharp with it. It was just like, no, it'll give me time to try and, work it out and recall and remember. So it was great for him, because it's been tough, trying to be a young girl, trying to break into that domain. It's a very male-dominated arena, absolutely, and it's the boys' club. I've had, some of my dad's friends over the years that, they'll try and they maybe try and chuck a question my way to see if I'm, good enough, if I'm clued up enough to try and get the answer, and I have over the years, and then it establishes that sort of, bond as well, and it's like, no, she does know her stuff. So I think for us together, it was quite a moment, like we're doing all right, we're getting there. And it was great, and I loved it, and I'm a bit of sentimentality there. So that was another cracker. And then my final one, again, because it is a love, I was at Joe Ledley's, I think, third last game for Celtic, his second last goal for Celtic. It was the worst game I've ever been at. It was Celtic 1, Partick Thistle 0 on New Year's Day, January 2014, New Year's Day. And there was so little Celtic fans, because they were so hungover from Hogmanay, clearly, that Partick Thistle fans were actually louder inside Parkhead. Couldn't hear Celtic fans at all. Green Brigade were non-existent. But for me, Joe Ledley was scoring into our goal. We were behind it. And he ended up scoring on his final game, actually. But at the time, it was clear that he was leaving, because I think Lennon had actually came out and said he's not signing a new deal. So I knew this was ultimately going to be the last time that I saw him. And for him to score, it was incredible. And it was it's just special, because I totally and utterly idolised him as a player. And to see that, and to know it's one of the final moments in a Celtic jersey, it was a special one.
That was all great. Thanks for sharing those memories with us. It's fun watching games in the pub, though. That's what we do over here. Like for me,
fantastic.
You're saying you don't take, you got the video. What I find funny is I always tell people when I'm at the games, put the phone down, or if you're at a concert, put the phone down, actually stand there and absorb it. Because this is the thing, growing up for me, like I was lucky that mobile phones didn't even start coming out until we got those Nokia bricks and the Motorola's that you could change the things before you were even born. This is like in the 90s and stuff, but we didn't have the games on live. So we had to wait a month to get the tapes sent over and then go to the pub and watch them, a month's worth of games over 2 days. So that's how we'd watch them. So it'd be like, if you had your mobile, put it on the table, you'd watch the game. But then nowadays, put the phone down, enjoy the concert. Like I went to the Foo Fighters concert last time they were out here, and there was all these people with their camera, their phones recording it.
That annoys me.
I'm like, I said to my cousin next month, put your phone down. Just sit here and enjoy it. You'll remember it better. And like now we talk about it, and it's things like he talks about a certain song or whatever, and it just gives you the goosebumps. And it's like, because you remember it, it brings back a feeling. But if you're watching it through your screen on your phone, you're not going to get that same connection.
I know I sound like I'm contradicting myself, but that's totally my ethos. I went to Well, I think, the last concert I went to before COVID was Liam Gallagher. And, and I'm just seeing all of these guys with their phones in front. And I'm like, wow, just take this in. This is unbelievable. And I was at the Hydro. I take no videos. Like I say, I come home and my family or my friends are like, oh, show us. I'm like, I can't. I don't take photos. But I must have probably thought game was over against Lazio. So I'm grateful that I had that. But I'm totally with you there. You live in the moment, and like so you take it through your eyes, because nothing beats taking it in naturally.
It's like the invincible treble when Rogic scored that winner against Aberdeen. The pub I was at, there was 200 of us at an Australian CSC. I'm watching that. I can't even see a highlight of that without getting goosebumps all down my arms. They're going, oh, because there was a guy wearing a Rogic shirt. He ended up crowd surfing and all sorts of stuff happened. And it's just like, just the memories. Like you see that and it just makes you think about
taking back to who you were, exactly. And
where you were, who you were with and what happened. So I get it 100%, like why that is so special to you with your dad. So yeah, it's great to hear those memories. And I'm actually glad it's not just me who thinks that way.
Oh, absolutely. I would, you take that any day of the week. You want those. And that's the whole that Inter Milan, because I can picture us, crossing eyes going, oh my goodness, what is happening here? And our eyes popping out our head, because we were like, oh, we're in for a long night here. Like, why did we travel through the rain for this? But that's what it's all about.
Yep, exactly. So last question for you, Amy. Other than Messi and Ronaldo, who would be the one player that you have seen play against Celtic and wish that they could be signed to play in the hoops for us?
Andreas Iniesta.
Nice. That was a quick answer.
It's quite a cushy one, isn't it? I don't think anyone could really begrudge. There's a plethora of players, but I think nobody oozes class like Iniesta. And there's been a lot of comparisons made over this European Championships. Obviously, Pedri, Luis Enriquez came out and said, even Iniesta couldn't do the sort of stuff that Pedri was doing. Perhaps not at 18, but it's a hefty comparison to put on them. And I'm impressed by Pedri, I really am. I mean, he's been quite impressive at Barcelona in a season where there has not been many great impressions at Barcelona. But Iniesta, for me, that's just, we're talking about McStay earlier being the maestro. Iniesta's, he's up there. The things he would do with the ball at his feet, the space he would create, that partnership with Xavi, it was stunning to watch. Exactly. You just sit there and you take it all in. That Barcelona side, probably the greatest footballing side I've ever seen. That sort of period under Guardiola, it was, you couldn't pick a fault there. It was stunning to watch, and it was football being played the way that you want it to play. And Iniesta was at the heart of that. And I was such a fan, and it's so hard to single out because at the time as well, I loved David Villa. But I think looking back, I think maybe the older I've got, I've actually appreciated the amount of work that Andreas Iniesta actually done as well. It's the off the ball stuff, it's the pulling the players away, the amount of dragging that he would do to allow Xavi to the pass, or even Sergio Busquets, who's just insane that he's still going at such a high level. But everything, it was just a ticking machine, and ultimately it showed, because when Iniesta wasn't there, there was a massive gaping hole, and it was, nobody can fill the boots of Iniesta, and Barcelona have never have never been able to replace Andreas Iniesta. Pedri perhaps is the next option, but they've never recovered from that side of Xavi and Iniesta, David Villa, Mascherano even. It's Puyol and Piqué. It's, the fact that this is a form side that you're rattling off every single player with ease. You could run through the bench and talk through. The fact that Cesc Fabregas sat on the bench, in these peak years, it speaks volumes.
Yep, it's unbelievable when you go through that and you can look at the bench and go, yep, this guy would start for probably all but 2 teams in the world. Same here. Maybe the top, other than 5 teams, maybe 10 just rattling through. It's unbelievable how much depth they had there. And the fact that the majority of that come through their academy as well is, it's what you like to see.
Absolutely. So for me, it would definitely be Andreas Iniesta.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Amy, for having a chat with us for this Tim Talk podcast. I really appreciate that. Do you want to tell everyone where they can find you on the Axon podcast that you're on?
Yes. So first of all, thank you so much for having me, Jarrod. This has flown and I've thoroughly enjoyed that. So Axon is Axon Pod. I'm on a Monday with Russell, obviously, like you say, who you've had on before as well, the crazy maniac who is owner of, I think, buses and trains now. I think somebody said today he's owning some trains. So God knows what that guy's getting behind. But Axom daily bulletins every single day at 12:30 UK time. And there's so much content. That's obviously from the State of Mind channel as well, which is growing and growing and growing. I've got my own show there, talk to plethora of ex-players, but there's music, there's politics, there's a little bit of everything. And then myself, Amy J Canavan on Twitter. If you can spell Canavan, not a lot of folk can. It's a bit of a pest. But thank you so much for having me on, and I've thoroughly enjoyed this.